I remember the exact moment everything started to feel wrong. It wasn't a phone call. It wasn't a message. It was a silence. The kind of silence that creeps in slowly, like fog rolling over a quiet street, soft at first, almost peaceful, until you realize you can't see anything ahead of you, and by then, it's already too late. For the first time in 6 years, I was finally breathing. Paris had a way of doing that to you. The air felt lighter, the sky somehow softer, and even the noise of the city carried a rhythm that didn't demand anything from you. I had spent years buried in work, early mornings, sleepless nights, endless responsibilities that blurred one day into the next. So when my leave was approved, it didn't feel real. 6 years, no breaks, no pauses, just movement. And suddenly I was standing on a quiet street near the Seine, holding a cup of coffee that was probably overpriced, watching strangers pass by as if time didn't matter anymore. I remember smiling to myself, because for once, it didn't. My wife Alina had insisted I take this trip. "You need it," she said, her voice soft but firm the night before I left. "You've given everything to your work. Just take a moment for yourself." She had always been like that, understanding, patient, almost too supportive sometimes. We'd been married for 7 years. Not perfect years, but steady ones. The kind built on routine, mutual respect, and quiet compromises. She knew how much pressure I was under, especially working under her father. That's where things get complicated. Her father, Mr. Kareem, wasn't just my father-in-law. He was my boss, the CEO of the company I had devoted the last decade of my life to, a man who rarely smiled, rarely praised, but somehow always watched. Working under him wasn't easy. It was like being constantly tested, even on your best days. But I endured it, for my career, for stability, and if I'm being honest, for Alina, because she believed in him. And for a long time, I believed in him too. Before I left for Paris, he called me into his office. It was late. The building was almost empty, the kind of quiet that makes every footstep echo a little too loudly. He didn't offer me a seat. "Enjoy your break," he said, his tone unreadable. I nodded. "Thank you, sir." There was a pause. A long one. Then he added, "Just remember, things don't stay still while you're away." At the time, I thought it was just another one of his cryptic remarks, a reminder that work never stops. I even smiled slightly. "I'll be back before anything falls apart." He didn't smile back. "Let's hope so." That was the first red flag, but I didn't see it that way then. Paris blurred into moments, golden sunsets, quiet walks, reflections in glass windows I didn't recognize myself in anymore. For the first time in years, I wasn't thinking about deadlines or expectations. I called Alina every evening. At least I tried to. The first 2 days were normal. She answered quickly, her voice warm, asking about everything, the food, the streets, the people. "You sound lighter," she said once. "I feel lighter," I replied. She laughed softly. "Maybe you should stay longer." I remember hesitating. "Would that be okay?" There was a pause. "Not long, just enough." "Of course," she said. "Take all the time you need." It should have comforted me, but something about that pause stayed with me. By the 4th day, things started to shift. She missed my call that night. It wasn't like her. Alina was consistent, predictable in the best way. If she said she'd call, she would. If she missed a call, she'd text immediately. But that night, there was nothing. No message. No explanation. I told myself she was busy. Work, maybe? Or with her father. It made sense. It always made sense. Until it didn't. The next morning, I woke up to a single text. "Sorry, slept early." "Talk later." Short, simple. But it didn't feel like her. I stared at it longer than I should have. Then I typed back, "No problem." "Everything okay?" No reply. That was when the silence returned. That same quiet, creeping feeling. I tried to shake it off. I told myself I was overthinking. After all, I was the one who had been distant for years, buried in work, missing dinners, coming home late. Maybe this was just balance. Maybe she was finally taking space for herself. But then came the email. Not from her. From the company. I almost didn't open it. Why would I? I was on leave. For the first time in years, I had allowed myself to disconnect. But something, instinct maybe, made me pause. The subject line was short. "Internal update." I opened it. And for a moment, I didn't understand what I was reading. It mentioned restructuring, leadership changes, new interim roles, words that should have felt familiar, except for one detail. My name wasn't there. That alone wasn't unusual. I was on leave. But then I saw another name, a name I didn't expect. Alina. I blinked. Read it again and again. Appointed to an executive oversight position. My chest tightened. She had never been directly involved in the company at that level. She stayed on the advisory side, distant from operations. That was always intentional. Or so I thought. I called her immediately. No answer. Again. No answer. My thoughts started racing, trying to connect pieces that didn't seem to fit. Why hadn't she told me? Why now? Why while I was away? Then my phone buzzed. Not a call. A message from Mr. Kareem. I stared at his name on the screen longer than I should have. He never messaged unless it was important, and even then it was brief. Controlled. Precise. I opened it. Enjoying Paris? 3 words. That was it. I typed back. Yes. Is everything okay at the office? The reply came faster than I expected. Things are changing. I frowned. What does that mean? This time there was a delay, long enough for my mind to start filling in gaps I didn't want to consider. Then his message came through. You'll understand when you return. Something inside me shifted. Not panic. Not yet. Just unease. Deep, quiet unease. I looked back at the email. At Alina's name. At the role she had never mentioned. At the timing. And suddenly Paris didn't feel as light anymore. The air felt heavier. The streets louder. The silence. Louder than anything. That night I didn't go out. I stayed in my room, staring at my phone, waiting for it to ring. For a message. For anything that would make sense of what I was feeling. Around 11:47 p.m., it finally did. A call. From Alina. I answered immediately. Alina. But before I could say anything else, I heard something in her voice. Something I had never heard before. Not warmth. Not distance. Something else. And in that moment, I realized whatever was waiting for me back home had already begun, to be continued. I didn't say anything for a second. Not because I didn't want to, but because something in her voice stopped me. It wasn't cold. It wasn't angry. It was controlled, carefully measured, like every word had already been chosen before the call even began. Hey, she said quietly. Just that. No warmth, no softness. No, I missed you. Just, hey, Alina, I finally replied, trying to keep my voice steady. I've been calling you. I saw the email. What's going on? There was a pause. Not the kind filled with hesitation, the kind filled with decision. I was going to tell you, she said. My chest tightened slightly. When? Soon. That word lingered between us. Soon. Not before. Not when it happened. Not when it mattered. Just soon. I don't understand, I said, standing up from the edge of the bed, pacing slowly across the room. You've taken an executive role? Since when? You never wanted that? I didn't, she replied. But things changed. There it was again. The same phrase her father used. Things are changing. I stopped walking. Why does that sound like something your father told you to say? Silence. Not denial. Not even surprise. Just silence. He didn't tell me to say anything, she said finally. But yes, we talked. Before or after the decision? Before. Of course. Of course he knew. Of course he planned it. And you didn't think to mention it to me? I asked, my voice tightening despite my effort to stay calm. I knew how you'd react. That stung more than I expected. And how would I react, Alina? You'd question it. You'd overthink it. You'd try to fix it. Fix it? I almost laughed. This isn't something to fix. It's something I should have known. She exhaled slowly, like she was preparing herself. This isn't about informing you of every decision I make. That sentence landed heavier than anything else she had said. Not because of the words, but because of what they meant. When did we start hiding things from each other? I asked quietly. We're not hiding, she said. We're adapting. I closed my eyes for a moment. Adapting, another word that didn't belong to her. Alina, I said, softer now. Talk to me, please. This doesn't feel right. For the first time, her voice wavered slightly. It's not supposed to feel comfortable. I opened my eyes. What does that mean? Another pause. Then she said something that shifted everything. Do you trust me? The question caught me off guard. Of course I trust you. Completely? Yes. There was no hesitation in my answer. Because until that moment, there had never been a reason to hesitate. Then come back, she said. My grip tightened around the phone. What? End your trip. Come back home. Why? Because it's better if we talk about this in person. My mind raced. This wasn't just about a new role. This wasn't just about the company. There was something else. Something she wasn't saying. Alina, I said slowly. Did something happen? No. Too quick. Too clean. Then why does it feel like everything has? She didn't answer immediately. And that silence said more than anything else could have. Please, she said finally, her voice lower now. Just come back. I looked out the window. Paris stretched out in front of me, lights glowing, people moving, life continuing like nothing had changed. But for me, everything had. Okay, I said quietly. I'll come back. The call ended shortly after that. No goodbye, no I love you. Just an ending. The flight home felt longer than it should have. Not because of the distance, but because of the thoughts. I replayed every conversation, every pause, every word that didn't sound like her. And slowly, painfully, patterns started to form. Her encouragement for me to take the trip. Her unusual pause when I asked to stay longer. The missed calls. The short messages. The sudden promotion. Her father's warning. It all connected. Too neatly. Too deliberately. By the time I landed, I wasn't confused anymore. I was aware. The house looked the same. Nothing had changed on the outside. Same lights, same door, same quiet street. But when I stepped inside, it didn't feel like home. Alina was sitting in the living room, waiting. She stood up as I walked in. For a brief moment, we just looked at each other. 7 years of memories, reduced to a silence neither of us knew how to break. You came quickly, she said. You asked me to. Another pause. Then I asked the question that had been building inside me the entire flight. Why does it feel like you needed me gone? Her expression shifted. Not shock, not guilt. Something else. Something resigned. That's not fair, she said. Then explain it to me. She looked away for a moment, then back at me. And this time, there was no hesitation. Because some decisions are easier to make when you're not here. The words hit harder than anything else. What decisions? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. She didn't answer right away. Instead, she reached for a folder on the table beside her and slid it toward me. I didn't want you to hear it from anyone else, she said. My hands felt heavier as I picked it up. I didn't know what I was expecting, but it wasn't this. Because the moment I opened it, and my eyes fell on the first page, I realized this wasn't just about the company. This wasn't just about her new role. This was something much deeper. Something planned. Something final. And as I slowly looked up at her, trying to process what I had just seen, she said quietly, I hope you understand why this had to happen. And in that moment, I knew the person I trusted the most had already made a decision. Without me.